Hi there, I'm the CCG Collector. Today I'm going to be showing off the Star Wars Destiny Complete Awakening cycle. That's all the cards in Awakenings, Spirit of Rebellion, Empire at War, and the two-player game. And as I go through it, I've also got a story to tell. Now, you may have noticed that I have not put up any Star Wars Destiny booster opening videos in a while, and the reason for that is simple. I'm no longer collecting Star Wars Destiny. Now, in short, that's because I simply can't afford it anymore. But of course, the longer story is more involved. About a year and a half ago, I decided to do something I hadn't done in over a decade. I collected a TCG that was active and currently receiving updates. Now, I hadn't done this since Magic the Gathering, and that was way back in 2003. I collected MTG for a short span between 2003 and 2004. For those of you who know the game, the first set that was released when I was playing was Scourge, and the last one was Champions of Kamigawa. So, right about when they were shifting from the old format of the cards to the newer one, the 8th edition style, if you will, where Modern began. So I'll go into that brief MTG journey in a later video, but in short, it was my first exposure to collecting a game that many other people were also actively collecting and playing. I learned about deck building, about what playstyles I liked and didn't like, about buying and trading singles, and about the game store atmosphere. But I was in high school at the time. I was bound by my limited income, I didn't have a credit card, so I could only buy a couple of packs at a time, and there was no real danger of getting sucked in. But even so, I found myself falling behind people who could pay to win, and ultimately it took up more money than it provided in return value. I lost interest and just fell away from the game. Now, about the same time, I also toyed with the Lord of the Rings TCG, and that introduced me to collecting for the sake of completion rather than competition. They made it really easy. Every card in the corner had the set number and the card number, so you knew what cards you were missing. You could put it into a binder really easily, and I liked that quite a bit. And when I had collected the Star Wars CCG prior to that, I didn't know how many cards were in a set. All I knew was, here are the cards I have. So, yeah, I collected that for a short time as well, but finally I fell back to the Star Wars CCG, and a little bit after it, the Middle-earth CCG. Of course, I knew of other games at the time, but I didn't really have any interest in them. But then, in late 2016, something new came along. This new Star Wars game, it had tight deck building rules, it had a novel mechanic, and it had, of course it was Star Wars. It had the weight of a franchise behind it. And I had money, I had interest, I had some friends who were curious, so I went after it. And from then on, at that point, I entered a world of TCGs completely fresh and foreign to me. I mean, this was a completely new game. No one knew what cards were good or bad. No one knew what the value of anything was, what strategies someone should pursue, what the competitive meta was. So, due to that uncertainty and due to the shortage of cards at the time, I mean, I wouldn't say I was hooked, but I was definitely intrigued by the game. And as I always do with this sort of thing, I played as a collector first and a competitor second, which means that binder cards and deck cards were separate. In essence, I needed to put, once I got a copy of a card, even if it was, a legendary card like this, it needed to go in my binder first before I could put anything in the deck, in my decks. Cards in my binder did not go in my deck. And of course, that hamstrung me. I mean, that basically precluded me from anything remotely competitive, which I was mostly fine with. I always liked casual personal deck building more than following a meta. I've done that like crazy with the Star Wars CCG. I have maybe a dozen, maybe more of decks that I just put together because I like the theme. Not because I think they'll be competitive. I don't even know anything about competitive Star Wars these days, but there it is. Anyway, as Spirit of Rebellion and Empire at War came out, I enjoyed the additional dimensions that they brought to my decks. But I realized more and more that I would never be able to keep up with the ever-changing meta. Especially with crucial cards that were going for $40 to $60 each. I mean, you've got things like, I think it's in here, you've got Ancient Lightsaber. Even now, that's a $60 card. And if you need 2 of those in your deck, you need 2 force speeds, whatever. How are you going to keep up with that? I couldn't. So I began to turn my focus instead of to deck building to collecting full sets and promo cards. But even that proved to be overwhelming. Promo cards, I think at the time of the shooting of this video, there are nearly 60 different promo cards, some of them going for $200 more. And yeah, no chance of that being a pursuit. So ultimately, I realized there was no financially reasonable way to be a completionist with the game, and the end of the Awakening cycle seemed like the perfect spot to duck out. I mean, I couldn't keep up with the game as a competitive player. I couldn't keep up with the game as a completionist collector. And most of all, there was no end in sight. With most of the games I collect classic TCGs. I collect Star Wars, I collect Middle-earth, I collect Wyvern, whatever. The point is, there's an end. I know how many cards were produced. I know what I need to fill out my set. With Destiny, who knows how long it'll go. I mean, they're going to keep on making Star Wars movies for years to come, I'm sure. And with that, Star Wars Destiny is going to go strong. So yeah, now seemed like the time to duck out before I got sucked into that black hole of spending. And anyway, here it is. Here is the sets. You saw me go through the full cycle, and here are some promo cards I've got. I've also got the all the dice that I'll show off for sure afterward. But here are some promo cards in full art, Aurebesh. Here's my mission briefing card from the Spirit of Rebellion pre-release. That was kind of neat. I was able to get a booster opening video on the channel before the set was even released, and that was great. These some nice ones. I really like the full art Rey here, and the full art Kylo is somewhere around here. Yeah, that guy right there. Jyn, Krennic, Overkill. And this is a slick pair of cards right here. Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Like concept art. And of course they made them go side by side, which is really slick. And at the bottom, yeah, I'm sure you don't recognize these. These are not promos you can buy anywhere. I have a friend who does these. He runs tournaments, and he makes these cards for local tournament prizes. And they're double-sided, which is nice because, like, Rey, for example, I think has, the one version of her and the other version of her. Yoda, I think, is double-sided just for the sake of being double-sided. But, hey, yeah, they're slick cards. He gave one of each to me, and I think they're pretty cool, so there you go. And I also have this Captain Phasma spot gloss card. I don't know how well it's showing up, but trust me, come on, there are parts of it that should be extra shiny. Not in a foil way, but in a different way. Oh, and then, of course, my collection has tokens and rules and things like that. So that's that. I also have all of the dice for each set. What good's a collection without dice? And I keep them in these Feldherr 40 and 80 count dice boxes. I really love these. They keep the dice neatly organized in a way that tackle boxes, which I used to use, could not. So you see that's all the Awakenings there. After that comes Spirit of Rebellion. There you go. Next is Empire at War. We're getting close to the camera here, but that's okay. And finally, you saw I had the 2-player game, and now you see I have the 2-player dice. So that's that. That's my story. That's my collection. I'm sorry for those of you who were hoping for more Destiny videos. I'm afraid it's not for me, but I've got plenty of other classic content that I will continue to pursue. Like I said, Wyvern, Star Wars, Middle-earth. So hopefully you like the story. Hopefully you like the collection. Either way, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.